Hello, Lauren. Good to see you. So, which is your call name? Lawrence or Amishi?
My what name?
Your call name. What name can we call you? Do we call you Lawrence or do we call you Amishi? Which is the surname and which is your call name?
Ameshi is the surname. Lawrence is
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Looking good.
You
How's
too.
everything?
We bless God. How is everything? Good to see you.
Yes, it's stressful, but we get by. Yeah, all right. So, Usosa's online. We have our guest, and it'll be nice to know him. For those of us watching, I'm using Choma Anewe's profile. My name is Sutoye Apiafi, and these are values conversation. And we're really positive that we will get great value from tonight. We're looking at just a teaser of the theme for the forthcoming plenary, the role of the substance in uniting Nigerians. And Senior Lawrence, you know I did Senior Lawrence after.
There's no
And Senior Lawrence wrote a wonderful book. So let us meet you, Lawrence. Can we know you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sotem. First of all, let me wish Usosa, let me congratulate Usosa for the upcoming plenary and the wonderful things they've been doing. It's self-evident that the association is moving forward and is making a big impact in Nigeria today, and particularly in the lives of the old students. How do I describe me? I'm just like any other person who went to Unity School, privileged to have been in a Unity School. My name, like you said, is Lawrence Ameshi. I was in Federal Government College, Warri from 1978 to 1983. One of the best years of my life. And I went to university at Nsukka. Later on, University of Science and Technology, I got an MBA in marketing. I also had a brief stint with Stanford University where I did a program in novel writing. I work with the NMPC. I've worked with the NMPC since I left university. I can say I'm a career public servant, but my passion is in writing, in creating stories, fiction. I'm married to a beautiful lady called Adako. I have 3 children, a guy and 2 girls. I live in Lagos.
Wow.
So about all I can say about for myself.
Wonderful. So when you say you're a public servant, so why did you delve into writing?
Wow, it's something that I think I was born to tell stories. I was always very curious as a kid, and I always created images in my mind. And I always loved reading books. So at some point, I believe the passion became so strong, and I had to go through some form of apprenticeship. So it's not just the passion, but there was that focus, that desire to ventilate, to express myself, and to tell 1 or 2 stories about things that came to me strong. So I started just one day on a car on the way back from Abuja to Lagos, sometime in 2009. I just picked my iPad and started describing what was happening around me. And luckily, I had somebody who gave me some inspiration, a friend called Jamil Abiola. And from then on, it was a consuming engagement. I just kept on writing. I kept on trying to learn. I write, I tear it up, I send it to people to read. And eventually, the first book was born, Sweet Crude Odyssey, which was really frightening because when I did the research, I wrote that book for about 5 years, consistently, every day. I discovered so many things, yeah. And initially, I published under a pseudonym because I was scared of the magnitude of what I discovered. But later on, I found out that, look, it's all there in public domain. It's just the interest. Most of us are writers in the heart. It's just that we don't have that focus and patience to develop. I'm sure you have a lot of stories to tell, I'm sure.
I do. I do. And for those who do not know, I don't know if we can say this. This is his book, the new book, 5 brown envelopes. Is probably the screen. I don't know how I can do this to get this right.
Yeah.
Is it upside down,
I
sideways?
don't think you can get it right.
Yeah, I don't think I can get it right. Maybe the camera sort of flips it. But anyways, when you say you love, telling stories,
Yeah.
when you're sharing, you brought out your tablet while you were on a journey and you started describing.
Yeah.
Hmm. When I started reading this book, right, I
Sweet good.
when
Sweet good.
I
Sorry.
started reading five brown envelopes, at a point I stopped. I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? Why are you painting this picture so vividly? And I think that there's a lot to learn. So the other question for me would be five brown envelopes. Why this? Why the choice of this as a title for the book?
Yeah, I'm going to try and talk without giving away the book, so you can get to the juice in it. But five brown envelopes. It's because the whole story revolves around these envelopes. The envelopes brought in a significant change, which in writing will say is the friction. There must be friction in any story. Like I was telling somebody, if you're writing a narrative and you say the man woke up, entered his car, went to work and came back, no story. But there must be friction. If you say the man entered his car and something hit him at the back of his head, that's friction. So the five brown envelopes was my own way of introducing friction into the narrative. And there's so
Hmm.
many dimensions that spin off from the envelopes. I chose that. Why I chose five brown envelopes to be precise is I felt it expressed what I had in my mind for the story. So as it unfolds and the envelopes keep coming, there's a punch up to the last envelope, which is the fifth envelope. And I encourage people to read the book to the end. At some point, they'll get caught up in the things the envelopes reveal. Of course, there's that there's that thing about brown envelopes in Nigeria. Say, five brown envelopes, five brown. Thank you, Satya.
Five brown envelopes. The role of Usosa in uniting Nigeria. When I read, it was really clear that this book is spot on for the conversation.
Yeah.
I just want to read, you know, for those listening, if you haven't seen the book, so just so that we have an idea
Yeah.
and we can go and get the book. So I'll just read an excerpt. Nduka Kaka's Kabiri's company is in trouble. A legacy inherited from his late father, Constructions Lion Limited, will be liquidated after the multi-billion-dollar project in northeastern Nigeria is seized and destroyed by terrorists. To save his company, Kaka's bid must win a World Bank sponsored rail project tender. I'll stop there. How can you so sound? Piercing. How can you so sound save Nigeria? How can you
I think
so
it's how
sound
can
save?
Usosa
How can you so sound save Nigeria?
save. That's really that's a very very good question. But I think the times around us answer the question. First of all, Unity School, I see them as a crucible. When we entered the school we went to, the Unity School, we were thrown in there at a tender age with people from all parts of Nigeria. And in that crucible of the things that happened in school, the academics, the sports, the school dance, all the things that happen in that space, we learned a lot about other people at a tender age. So because of the variegated nature, it's not difficult for us to live in a place like Nigeria, because many of the myths that people have because of their restricted upbringing, maybe, for example, I come from the southeast, from Owerri. If I had only been in Owerri, probably I would not have seen or grown up with people from Sokoto, from Jos, from Cross River. But in the crucible of the unity schools, we were made to blend with them. So if you look at the things happening in Nigeria today, a lot of it has to do with misunderstanding. Because we are the same, we all need the same, we all desire the same things as human beings. While the whole world is talking of coming together, Europe and other countries, it's so embarrassing about talking about separation and all sorts of funny things. But the Usosa, because of the crucible understanding of other people, is in the best position to create a better narrative. So I think we are needed more than ever in Nigeria. We are needed more than ever. And it's obvious when like in my office, when we had a meeting we had recently, a management meeting across the table, and somebody, he went to FC's Kaduna, he just mentioned that about 60% of us went to federal government colleges. And the quality of delivery is so obvious, so it's so refined. And people say, oh, I went to Kaduna, I went to Warri, I went to Odobolu, and I was so excited. So we have a lot to do in Nigeria. We need to amplify our voices. Not just the training we had in the school, which was top. Well, when I went to FGC Warri, the private schools were not as profound as they are now. It was the best in Nigeria. And we had everything. The food was good, the accommodation was good, the teachers were focused, there was no talk of money or anything, and we just had fun. So I think we need to bring that spirit into Nigeria. That's what it is. That's the edge we have over us. That's what
Indeed. Indeed. So, one of the things that stood out, oftentimes we just say this in passing. We say, oh, Nigeria, the things that go on in Nigeria affects all of us, we should be interested. But I don't think we understand how deep it is. So going through your book, the fact that someone won a multi-billion-dollar project and was, it was destroyed by terrorists. And I'm wondering to myself, you really thought deep, to bring this out in the book. And I really encourage everyone to go get a copy of this, because when you read through, you will really understand how we make or mar this country.
Exactly.
It's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to see it come to life. And I'm wondering, I hope someday you'd make this into a movie, because it's really great, right? So tell me, did you experience any of this firsthand? For you to go that deep and paint this vivid picture around our businesses. I felt for the guy really when he did it.
Yeah, so the first thing you find out when you start writing fiction is that you must do a lot of research. It's not enough to stay in one place and just imagine. This book took me about 4 years.
Wow.
Not only do you do research, you put yourself out of curiosity into certain situations. So when you are describing them, they are crisp. I give you an instance. My protagonist goes to prison somewhere in the book. I had to spend in prison to understand, because there are certain things you only understand in the prison if you are there at 2 a.m. in the morning. Certain sounds you only hear, they can't describe them to you. And there's certain things you can't talk about if you don't put yourself in that environment. So the book is, if you want your book to have juice, if you want it to captivate the reader, you want it to convey the message, you want to create content that has value, you subject yourself to a lot of research. Thankfully, we have University of Google, you have all sorts of internet I accessed. But you must also put yourself into it. And my first book, which was Sweet Cruise Odyssey, that was on the Niger Delta. I wrote about the militants, the busting of pipes. I had to go into. I had to go in there. So, but
Wow.
because it's your passion, it's not a burden. It's not a burden for me to do these things, to sit down and watch, or to dress casually and to enter a place, or to engage people on the language. But one thing that came out in this book is the local Nigerian language. There's a lot of pidgin used in it because I allowed people to talk the way they talk in the book.
Exactly.
Yes, so I didn't use Queen's English to explain what a vulcanizer we're talking about. I used his language, and I also have a very good publisher. I must mention him because he's a Usosa. His name is Dr. Usosa. Yeah, he went to FGC. He was a medical doctor turned, he's an author and a publisher, but he's been a great help and very understanding. So that's also part of the Usosan spirit. We have ourselves everywhere. You just reach out and you get. So that's it about the writing. You need to do your research. You need to be focused. You need to be patient. And you need to allow others to critique what you have done. You can't know everything.
So what was the process like? These 4 years of writing, of getting data?
The writer's life is a lonely life. It's of all the arts, writing is the loneliest because you have to sit down either with your typewriter or your computer or with your biro. It's not like the guy whose content, they're all creating content, the artist, the writer, the poet, you know, but the artist can sing a song where people are there. The poet can write a poem when there's noise. But if you are writing a book, not a novella, a book that's going to be like 200 and something pages, you need to keep the trail going. And it's quite exhausting because, like in this conversation, if I'm writing this conversation, I have to be you, then me, then you, then me, then capture all the things around you and the things around me. So there's context and flavor. So it can be quite exhausting. After like 30 minutes, you find mentally drained. But because you love it, keep doing it. And I believe as a writer, and every one of us, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has something to tell the world. But we just need to sit down and put it down and write it and develop it from there. Yeah, that's just
Great. So for those who are just joining, my name is Usosa Apiafi. I'm using Choma Niwe's profile. I just have to say before you wonder, no, this is not Choma. I'm using Choma Niwe's profile. And I have with me Lawrence Amechi, a Usosan, an author of Sweet Crude Odyssey and the 5 Brown Envelopes. And you know, I want to encourage everyone to really get this book. AGM and 38 plenary is coming up on Saturday. And this book sort of summarizes it. It puts into perspective the issues presented in Nigeria. And I see something in this book. Permit me, if you may. So I'll read it again. To save his company, Kaka's bid must win a World Bank sponsored rail project tender. This contract will pay off all his debts and make Kaka one of the richest men in Africa. The stakes are high, and greedy, powerful, dangerous men in the corridors of power, and some close enough to walk the corridors of his own home, will do anything to stop Kaka from winning the rail tender. Do you really believe that there are forces that are poised to stop Nigeria from, being a united front?
I think by omission, by commission, at times, innocently believing that they are doing the right thing for their own people. Because one thing we got going to a unity school was the ability to understand other tribes and religions at an early age. I entered Warrior, FGC Warrior at the age of 11. So, and then we didn't have all these gadgets and devices we have now. So you were forced to stay in that, I use the word enclave, with those people there and make life. Your parents wrote you letters those days, and then the letter came after 2 weeks. And during lunch, they will read it out. So this person has a letter. So we didn't have that traffic with them in terms of communication. So we had an open, our minds were open. But there are people who genuinely think they are fighting a tribal war or a religious war. It's just the way they've been exposed. They've not learned to open their minds to understand that we don't have to be the same to stay together. So there are forces, definitely. Some of them also are mischievous because they just take advantage of the times and the tide and want a good hot meal. And there are those who just come along because they feel if a brother is doing it and brother is so I just feel it. So there are forces. But we Usosans are a positive force, and the more we amplify our voices and get involved in the different shades of the spectrum of existence in Nigeria, we will communicate the message which we learned at a young age. We will push back those forces. At least we will dilute it. At least wherever we are. I can't consciously sit down and look at somebody who is from Kano and assume and call him the names I hear people call him because I'm from the East. Because I've had very good friends from that area who were not different from me. They were not different. And then also being privileged to work in a government theater that has people from everywhere, I see that we are basically the same. We can live together, we can make things work, but we need change agents like us to make it work. And that's why Usosa stops.
So in writing this book, sometimes I know that. So there are two things I'm going to ask. First off is, did you get writer's block? When for the 4 years period, right? And how do you, re-energize and come back to your scripts?
Yeah, writer's block. Writer's block. With all of us, and with the writer, there are certain triggers which you will realize bring out the story in you. And there are certain times you can't bring out the story. It's an art. It's something that springs up from passion. So your emotions are involved, your thoughts, whatever is going on. But for me, these things are very funny. For me, I noticed when I walk under the hot sun, it does a lot to my thinking.
Are you serious?
When I take a shower, yes. When I take a hot shower, it triggers. It's I can't explain it. Or there are times I'm talking with somebody, I'm talking with you, and you say something, and bang, that thing just triggers another thing. And I take off from there. I start jubilating. I start pushing my narrative. And you might be wondering, this guy, is there something? Or I'm in a meeting, and a man walks in, and I look at him and I say, that is this person. The characters you write about, you see them physically. That is Kaka. That's how Kaka. Or I'm driving down the road and I tell my wife, that's where Bruce lives. Or that's where, it's a bit weird, but that's how it is. It's art, it's passion, it's not science, it's not a formula. So you have block. You do have the block. At times you can't write. But the best way to get around that, I'll tell you the truth. Have a structure. Don't write off your head. Have a structure of what you want to say, how you want the story to go, a skeletal structure. Build your characters individually. Character A is very tall, he stoops to one side when he's walking. So by the time you build all those characters, you have the structure. It's easy to flesh it up.
I wonder, what was your inspiration for Trevor, the I swear to God guy?
Pardon?
What was your inspiration for Trevor, the I swear to God guy?
Yes. I know somebody talks like that. I hope he's not watching. And it says, I swear.
Oh
The way it is, I swear to God, it comes out very smooth. And I said, that's good. This will fit into Mr. White. I swear to God. And I built the character around these things. I built it. So I can actually see, I can see Mr. White. Physically, like I can describe him. I can talk the way he talks. I can rub my hair the way he rubs. No, it's just like that. It becomes so real to you. It's bizarre. So some of these things are like taken from different people and then build one character. And you have
okay. So did you know? So my sister is a medical doctor, right? And sometimes I see her take on the pain of her patients, and she just becomes a different person. Did any part of this story put you into that sort of mood where it just took your emotions and then it just turned
Oh,
it around?
yes. There's a part of the story I won't tell you, but I will confess when I get to that. If I read 5 brown envelopes, I get to that point, I feel like shedding tears. But I want people to find out for themselves. At that
When I
point,
read, there was one part I read. I was like, what's wrong with you? Like, I had to, it was just so graphic. It was so real. When I was reading, I was taking notes. I was like, oh my goodness, this is stuff for the gods. Like, this is who are the greatest writer? If you talk of painting, I say the Pablo Picasso's.
I don't know.
Which writer should we
God is the greatest writer. He created all the
God
stories.
is the greatest writer.
He created all the stories.
I hear you. But I would love to hear you. We would love to hear you read from one of your favorite sections of this book. So which will it be?
I don't have a copy here because I'm not within my regular space. Like I told you, I don't have a copy of. You want me to read it?
Yes, just to read a bit. We want to hear your voice. Read to us.
I can get a copy of the old. I have the old one, a Sweet Crude.
Okay, so read to us from Sweet Crude.
Yes, I can read from Sweet Crude. I have 5 brown envelopes in this in the gadget I'm using to communicate with you.
Oh
no, I should have it on my iPad. No, let me open my laptop.
okay.
Sorry, I think I got.
We want to hear the writer's voice so that it should not be that it's so anyhow. We want to hear you read at least one section of the story, one paragraph, one something. We want to hear you.
All of the whole paragraph, then.
Yeah, just something small. Something small.
Yeah, I have it here. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I have it. That's Sweet Crude, the first one.
Oh, nice.
But let me yank out something from 5 brown envelopes. And
I love the design, the book cover. It's really
that's kudos to my publisher, Usosa, the guy I mentioned. He doesn't do cheap stuff. He really he did with Farafina. He did Basanjo's book My Watch, and they also published Chimamanda.
Oh wow!
So he's good. They're good, and they're very
good. It's not cherry. This is good stuff. And when I looked at it,
Okay. I hope I get this. I hope I can get this good. Should have prepared for that.
Yeah, we love to take us unaware sometimes. But if you can't get the copy of 5 brown envelopes, you can read to us from Sweet Crude.
Okay, let me see. I hope this gets it. I hope this gets. Yeah, this is the conversation he had with his lawyer.
Okay, for sweet crude or for.
Okay, so let me go to sweet crude then.
Okay.
Let me go. It's a bit. Okay,
So
let
for
me go
those
to.
on the call, please, if you have questions for our guest Lawrence and Mishi, please put them in the comment section.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Okay, let me from sweet crude. I'll read from chapter 20, the beginning of chapter 20, and on the 13th of October 2014 in Port Harcourt. This is set in the Niger Delta. That's the because the story was talking a young man who got involved with busting pipes and he made too much money, but a lot of things happened. And it says here, we squatted down the center table in General Jojo's living room. I had a notepad and a pen in my hands. While I spoke, General Jojo, excellent commander, and Africa, listened intently. I assume you have roughly 5 days to bring the first shipload of crude oil to our buyer's vessel offshore. I looked up from for confirmation, and General Jojo nodded. Have we agreed on a plan? General Jojo sat up. Smoke from the Benson and Hedges cigarette clenched between his lips, drifted to his eyes. It made him squint as he spoke. By this time tomorrow, the first 12,000, not thinking clearly, the line. I apologize. Yeah, this is better. By this time tomorrow, the first 12,000-ton vessel will lead 80,000 barrels. When it moves off, the second vessel will load 50,000 barrels to kickstart the operation. We will mop up the products organized by the local militia and community-based court group. He got up and walked around the room like an army general at the strategic briefing session for a bar. The general spoke again. You checked all options to avoid Wahala. I leave nothing to chance, nothing. He placed a hand gently on Africa's shoulder. Africa, don't you remember how it was before amnesty? How we planned for hours and hours until it was perfect before we struck. Africa nodded. Okay, those were rough days. Jojo said, the militia and the local. So that's, do I keep moving on? That's it.
I'm enjoying
But you
it.
can
So
keep talking.
I have to get another book.
Pardon?
I have to get this. I have to get the sweet crude.
Odyssey, yeah,
Honestly, yes.
it's a good read.
Oh, I apologize. Some persons are saying the audio is not so good. Wow. We apologize if the audio is not.
Oh, they are not
good.
hearing me?
No, she didn't mention. Susan, who aren't you hearing? I can hear you, but she says the audio is not so good. And yes, Susan, people are really different. I'm sure she going nowhere. Talking.
I apologize.
Yeah. So on this journey, right?
Yeah.
I see on the book cover, I see infidelity, betrayal, passion, loyalty, and conflict. Without giving too much away, I'm wondering, these are 5 different characters. Are they anyhow aligned, to the 5 grand envelope story?
Yeah, they're
Each
all.
envelope, did it convey one of those?
Yeah, certainly they're all in the mix. There's infidelity, a lot of it. a lot of treachery. And one thing I didn't mention there, there's fetish worship. Yeah. So it's, you see, the story evolves into many dimensions as it slowly takes off, and the characters start to express themselves in the story. And the characters tell the story by their actions, by their thoughts, by their words. So all these come to you as you're reading from different characters, and it gets mixed up into the main plot line and drives this guy's life on the Kakabiri, drives this guy's life to the point where it's anybody's guess. Messes him up in so many dimensions, and then that goal is still there. Who is going to get that contract? And there are people who are ready to kill for it, and that's very true. Having worked in the contracting process for a long time, you see a lot of desperation. Some people are really desperate.
Yeah.
They are not all just cool and calm, and you'll be amazed at what that desperation brings out in some people who look cool and calm normally, but you put that stick on the table and the character changes, everything changes. And if you're not careful, you get blown away. That's just it. So all those things come into play in the story.
So wait, this is women power now. Why did it have to be a seductress? Is it because your protagonist was a guy? You just followed naturally that it was a seductress, or you just wanted to make us continue to look like the daughters of Eve? Which is
No, Satan. You see, actually, there are two polar opposites. That's the doctor, and there's another character who exemplifies everything we expect. Both are very strong. I just wrote about a male, but my next book, I definitely the protagonist to be a woman. But in this case, it turned out to be a guy, and these women had very major roles in it. In fact, you cannot tell the story without. So the lady is a seductress. I mean, I didn't write. If I couldn't make a man a seductress, I mean, so you understand what I'm saying? Now that I'm taking my book to another dimension, and remember that.
yeah.
So, and she came in at a very high level. She's not just a layabout. She's a highly qualified person. And you need to give, when you chew the book, you see what, in fact, it all unraveled in a way that I got surprised, because for these two books, I did not write them. I wrote from my heart. So at times the story changed dramatically before my very eyes. As you are telling the story, you might come to sit down and say, I want to write it this way, but as you start to tell the story, it starts to tell itself. That's the good thing of having the characters formed. So if I'm writing about Sotoye, there are things that the person you are will bring out. Your cheerful nature, your disposition. And it just comes out. I just explore. I put myself in you and say, how would Sotoye react in this situation? So at times the story starts to tell itself. And that's why when I read it, I keep reading my books over and over. At times I read it, I'm like, how did this happen? But that's the joy. That's the joy of the gift and the passion. That's the joy. Yeah. It's the same with every passion and every gift. And I believe everybody comes to this world with one gift.
Indeed.
And it's in that gift that you stand the chance to be the best. It could be making clothes, it could be cooking, it could be counseling others, it could be, but over the years, due to peer pressure and parental pressure, many of us leave it. We don't develop. We pick careers that are not in that line, and we struggle in our lives. But there's something which you love doing as a kid. That's it. It came to you naturally. That's it. With that, if you develop it with the focus.
I used to love acting as a kid, though. Maybe I should go back to acting.
That's it.
Okay. No, please, when you're turning this book into a movie, if I'm not too old and gray-haired,
No, you're
consider
not
me for
too
the role of seductress.
old. I actually had offers to turn Sweet Crude Odyssey into a movie. I had several
Oh,
offers,
nice.
but you see, I don't want a commercial plot. I want the story to be told. So if you sell it to a business producer, you have to sign away all your rights. They can modify the characters, modify the story, whichever way. And although the Nollywood and Nigerian movies scene is changing, but there's still a lot of you know what I mean. So you don't want what you suffered to produce to be
Yeah.
told in a way that some of them, even the songs can tell you the film you're about to watch. The
Watch.
movie, the song, introducing the movie tells you the whole thing. So Tony just did an interview with Mr. Meshi.
We are coming for you. We are coming for you. We are coming for
Ah,
you. Nobody will come for you. You just wait and
no
see.
way, no way. I'll leave it on my
Okay, so
shelf.
I apologize. Osai says there's too much background noise. In preparation for the Ebo tomorrow, we came to the venue and I actually had to take time out to do this interview. So I really apologize to everyone for the background noise. Yeah?
That's all right. The
Yes.
airborne, that is school. That is the Unity School language.
Yes. So why I'm sort of focusing on this seductress. I want to just draw an analogy, right? As
Yeah.
Nigerians, in our daily, as we go about our daily businesses, yeah, things, situations present themselves to us.
Yeah.
It seduces us, and it's there for us to either hold on to our values or
Exactly.
to fall. Going through your book, there are a lot of opportunities for some of the characters to do better,
Yeah.
but they either choose to fall or to stand. And so it is with us. We can be saying the role of Usosa in uniting Nigeria, but when the chiefs are down, those things that seduce us, I mean, can we stand tall and say, no, I'm not going to fall like a pack of cards? When those brown envelopes come forth, are we going to say, no, I understand the value that I have. I understand why unity schools were formed. I understand how I can make Nigeria better and refuse to fall. So that's it for me. Going through your book, it was just a reminder. I was drawing analogies to life as we know it because your book is really rich. There are a lot of lessons, to learn from this book. So I say to everyone who is listening, please get a copy. So, Lawrence, how can we get a copy?
It's on Amazon and it's also my publisher's narrativelandscape.com.
Okay.
It's very available, yeah. And in bookstores, it's just been circulated in the bookstore. But if you go on either of them, Amazon or Narrative Landscape, you get a copy of the book at a decent price. Yeah, and about what you were saying, when you were talking, I was captivated because it's also part of the Unity School matter. I sit in a lot of meetings and meet a lot of people by virtue of my career. And it's only when most times you talk to somebody with a pedigree and background, you can see that articulation and that expression. It's not as if there are people, even when they are talking with such loud language, loud voice, they are mixing up their tenses. I'm telling you, and at times it's a man of very great substance, and he's shouting, and he says he's talking to a man, he's calling her she, calling him she.
As you just said this, I recall one of the sections of the book where the guy, you are too graphic, and rub the yama yama on his hand.
Okay.
And Kaka was like, such a politician, such
I tell you. But you're right. See, it's all when push comes to shove, it's a personal decision. Nurture can predispose you to a better decision, but if you have not taken care of those choices inside you and decided I will not be this, I will not do that. When in street language, when John go mature, the real person. When the circumstances that hold up civilized society stop to control you, then that thing will come out and manifest. So it's a personal decision. So yes, being a citizen is an advantage, but we all must look. I'm not an angel. I'm not. But we must be able to decide that we are not going to go a certain way. We're not going to kill to get what we want. We're not going to use violence. We're not going to use violent language. We're not going to do certain things. It's a personal choice. I tell people, if you wake up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning and you stand in front of a mirror, that person that looks back at you is the person you created. You are creating that person because one day you will stand alone. So what do you genuinely believe in? So these are things that we have to decide on our own before we come into the Commonwealth, into society, and express ourselves. Well, being a Usosa is an advantage because by nurture, you are exposed to better environment. That's what I think.
Yeah. Very true. And thank you for your book. Your book is truly a gift. So the last question for me, before I put the floor to you to share maybe something that I may not have covered. Are you going to be having book reading events across Nigeria?
I will. My publisher is setting that up. I didn't do that for the first book because the topic was quite volatile, and I don't want to get into the wrong arguments with people. I just wanted to tell the story of a young boy from the Niger Delta who was forced to do what he had to do because the system did not take care of him. But with this book, I will do the complete media tour and also external ones because between that book and this book, I did a stint in Stanford. So I have this narrative has been exposed to some community. So yes, I will push it. I want people to understand the story. This is our own. Now, this is not Mills and Boone. It's not Howard Robin. This is Nigerian story, and we have come of age. The world deserves to hear our story being told by us in our own language, and it's only when we stand up. And the good thing about it is that if you have a measure of comfort, you are not begging them to buy your story because you can push it, yes. But when you take your story cap in hand, then you can hear all sorts of rubbish from people. But now my publisher is a Nigerian, he's a Usosan, he's a medical doctor, not a quack, so he can push his story. So that's why you and I need to be strong, whatever I do, and bring that to bear on what we contribute to this lovely nation.
True. We must contribute to this lovely nation. And for those joining, we're just about wrapping the values conversation. And my guest is Lawrence Amechi, an amazing Usosan from FGC Warri, Senior Lawrence. Yes. And he's been sharing insights from his wonderful, wonderful book, 5 Brown Envelopes. Do well to get yourself a copy. I'll post the link to the Amazon site, and I think there's from your other publisher here.
My publisher, Narrative Landscape.
Narrative Landscape, yes. And tonight, while we spoke on the book, it's really clear that all Nigerians must read this book. It ties closely at every line, every word ties closely to the conversation we're going to be having on Saturday. As we sit together, engage on our 38th plenary, the role of Usosa in uniting Nigeria. It is as if Lawrence preempted us and went ahead and wrote that book. But I really encourage everyone to grab a copy so that we'll have a very rich conversation. And just so you know, because he's a giver, he gives, by writing, he's also giving us some copies of his book. So the first 10 persons who will be at the plenary on Saturday get a copy from Lauren.
From the executive.
Who's the executive? Who's the executive? Who's the executive for you? Talk now. So, Lauren, any final words from you before we wrap up?
Yeah, first I would say in that book I made a reference to something that is very dear, was very dear to us. That was a program started by
Sorry,
the
I
then.
didn't hear you. You said in the book you made.
Yeah, I made a reference. I
Okay.
mentioned the program, which was very dear to us those days in FDN, the federal government colleges. When the government took in students from Rhodesia and South Africa, that was during apartheid. So that program brought them into our midst. So I made a reference to that in that book and the federal government college experience. So it's in there, and I want people to stumble on it as they are reading. Then generally, I would say thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate particularly my namesake, Lawrence. The President General is a very resourceful person, very resourceful, and he has a wonderful executive. And you, Sotonel, you've been so supportive, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that this level of engagement coming out of you. And for all of us celebrating the plenary years ahead of us, we can make a difference. We are not just numbers. We are not just statistics. There's so much that has been invested in us. And Nigeria needs to hear our voice now. When you look at the quality of people who are leading, it's not. We can do better. Either we can support them, or we can point the way out to them, or we can be in the seats. So while Usosa will not be a partisan organization, but we should have a pressure group voice to be able to remind people that our unity is not a disadvantage. It can be a good strength. Look at America. Now, going back, in those days, America was up there, Canada was somewhere down below because of one word, diversity. Canada closed in, America was open. And the difference was, now Canada has started taking in people.
Yeah.
And Canada is exploding. It's becoming, so diversity is the seed of growth and development. We need to understand each other. We need to let people know that together we make much more than alone. Together we will. So thank you so much, Sote.
All
Congratulations.
right. Thank you so much, Lawrence. It was
Appreciate
nice
you.
having you. I know that I will get switch to Odyssey because I'm already bowled over by 5 round envelopes. So I'm sure that we'll have you back on again.
Oh,
Probably
yes.
to talk about to share insights from Sweet Food Odyssey because I know that sometimes people excuse a lot of things because of the conditions surrounding those who perpetuate it. But is that really a reason? So
No.
thank you for your time again, and thank you, Usosa, for joining. This has been a values conversation. If you haven't gotten any values, let me share a few that I've gotten from Lawrence. Hard work in terms of research, because when he was speaking, he kept mentioning how much work he has to do. And please note, he already has a regular 8 to 5 job, or 7 to 5, depending on it, or 7 to 4, depending on his hours. So hard work, Nigerians, we can't throw that away. We're very resourceful people. So research, learn. We don't just jump off the gun. And then the associations you make matter. Because if you go through his book, you see the characters and how they evolved, then you understand that it's really, really important to choose those you associate with because they really can make or mar you. We must have heard this we must have heard it countless times over, but I mean, there's no harm in reinforcing it.
Yeah.
He also highlighted the fact that we're different. Our diversity is even a plus. It
Yes.
enriches us because it brings different things to the table. So when we
Exactly.
go out and engage, we must we must be confident in our uniqueness and celebrate ourselves. And as we so stand, wherever we find ourselves, we must stand tall. He cited an example in the organization where he works, and you know how the outputs from the Usosa are always, top notch. So please, as we come together to have conversation around our role in uniting Nigeria, let us know that, like we said, it is the man, it is the woman in the mirror that needs to do a lot more. So thank you
Exactly.
very much, Lawrence.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
This is wonderful.
Our love to your wonderful family. Thank you for
Yeah.
your time.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye,
so much.
Susan.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.